Constitutional experts say the Speaker of Parliament, Doa Jaho, could be impeached for refusing to be sworn in as acting president in the absence of President Mahama and Vice President Amy Arthur. Clauses 11 and 12 of Article 60 of Ghana's Constitution makes it mandatory for the Speaker to take the oath of office as acting president in the absence of the president and his vice. But he declined to take the oath today, explaining that he had already taken it on September 19th last year when the president and his vice were out of the country. Constitutional experts say his refusal is grounds for impeachment. This is today's big story with me, Stephen N.T. Now, the Chief Justice, Georgina Wood, today had to leave the Chamber of Parliament without performing her duty of swearing in the Speaker of Parliament as acting president because the Speaker declined to take the oath. He argues that since he was only a ceremonial president, the oath he swore a year ago should still be enforced. Let's hear the Speaker.
Honourable members, you will recall that yesterday I read a communication from His Excellency the President informing the House of the absence of both the President and the Vice President from the country. Pursuant to Article 60, Clauses 11 and 12 of the Constitution, I am enjoined to perform the functions of the President for the period of his absence from the country. Article 60, Clause 12 of the Constitution requires that the Speaker, before commencing the performance of the functions of the President, take and subscribe to the oath in relation to the President. Honourable members, you will also recall that on Thursday, 19 September 2013, I assumed the functions of the President in accordance with Article 60, Clause 11 of the Constitution, pursuant to which I subscribe to the oath set out in relation to the office of the President. Honourable members, leadership in consultation with the Chief Justice and the Chief Legislative Draftsperson of the Attorney General's Department this morning in my lobby, after careful reading of the relevant provisions of the Constitution and the oath I took on the 19th of September 2013, I arrived at the conclusion that it will not be necessary to subscribe to another presidential. Honourable members, accordingly, I've assumed the office.
Well, but constitutional experts say his refusal is grounds for impeachment. We'll be speaking to lawyer Atachian, who has some rather very strong views on the matter. But before then, let's talk to our parliamentary correspondent, Emmanuel Ante, to find out exactly what happened in Parliament today. Emmanuel.
Yes, Steve.
Charlie, Parliament must have been hot today, Pa.
Very hot, I tell you. Very hot.
So what exactly happened?
Well, we waited. Usually, Speaker himself said this time round, this sitting is going to commence exactly at 10. He will not delay any time. We went there 10, no Speaker, but I saw the Chief Justice around at the time, and then all of a sudden the minority leader, the majority leader, the leadership were there, and then they were whisked into the Speaker's chamber. Usually every morning they go and have a little meeting before the sitting commenced, but this time it was a bit extensive. And then we were there 11:30, then the Speaker entered the chamber, only for us to be told that the Speaker is not going to be sworn in again. I first saw the Chief Justice going out in his car, and I started asking. So I started probing. I started going into the underground to be talking to some of the members to find out what really informed that decision. They themselves at the time did not know what really happened. And then the speaker came and then made the announcement, and that was when the commotion started. I mean, there was a heated debate on the floor, because of that matter. Justice Joseph Usu first raised, he was the first person to raise the objection and all that, and then the other members also followed.
Right, we'll hear from the other members later, but let's get onto the telephone line now and speak to lawyer Atta Achian, who is MP for Ebuakwa South. He joins us now. Good evening, sir.
Good evening. Now,
you say Doa Jaho's refusal to take the oath of office as acting president is grounds for impeachment. Is this not too harsh?
Well, you see, if you pay regard to the Constitution and you don't want to pick and choose, when the president should violate the Constitution, it's a ground for impeachment. Is that not so?
Yes, it is.
That is what it says clearly. And therefore, if somebody is supposed to act as a president and the person refuses to subscribe to the oath, which makes him act as a president, he has violated the Constitution. And therefore, he might not go through impeachment proceedings as it is like the president, the vice, but you can come under Article 95, and it's the fourth of the members of the parliamentarians can remove him as Speaker.
Right, but his reasons, I feel that his reasons make sense. He took an oath in September last year. Must he take another one again each time he acts as president, even if it's 10 times in a year, for example?
Yes, that's what the Constitution says, because if you pay regard to Article 68, it provides us for whenever the president is absent from Ghana. So whenever. You understand?
Yes.
Therefore, it is a mistake that immediately he leaves and the vice is also outside the territorial waters of Ghana, there shouldn't be a power vacuum. Somebody should step in and perform the function of the president. But what gives it efficacy is that person should subscribe to the presidential oath. In terms of Article 60(12). So what are we saying? Do you want us to put a different interpretation on whenever? It doesn't accord with common sense. I don't know why people want to give it another meaning. That is what the Constitution says. So therefore, if the whole year it should be absent for 90 occasions and the vice is not around, then they all should subscribe to 90 occasions. And what does it cost you? Take the oath.
Right.
Why would you say that? Why would you say that you took it once and therefore it's permanent? Then you are misinterpreting the Constitution. You see, because the Constitution also says when the president returns, then that is the end. You go back to your own position. That's to say, it was a mistake that the president will go out, but when he returns, you will say that because I took the oath, I should continue in the office. Would you accept that interpretation?
No, I would not.
Yeah, so that is the whole point.
Right, so when he made the decision, we are told by a government communications team member that the suggestion was actually made by the Chief Justice. Were you members of Parliament privy to any suggestion by the Chief Justice that it is okay for Doa Jaho not to take the oath?
Well, we've never been made privy to that, you see, and I'll be very much surprised that the Chief Justice will give an opinion when she's not sitting as the Chief Justice. So that opinion has no force. You understand?
Yeah.
The Chief Justice is supposed to pronounce on constitutional matters sitting as the Chief Justice of Ghana. And not when you meet in some closed-door meeting and the Chief Justice will give an opinion. That opinion is not binding on anybody.
I see.
Because she's not sitting as the Chief Justice.
Right. Let me hold you briefly and get on to the other telephone line and speak to Abraham Amaliba, who is a member of the ruling NDC's legal team. Good evening, sir, and thanks for your time.
Good evening. Good evening to your viewers.
Right. Now, the leadership of the House, we are told, agreed for the Speaker's position to hold. That should close the matter, shouldn't it?
It shouldn't close the matter. What has happened raises constitutional issues. And for me, this should be referred to the Supreme Court for interpretation.
I see.
But I think those who ignited this, for me, is unfortunate because they shouldn't be doing that. This should have been left to academicians and constitutional law students who would want to test the law.
But why so? I mean, they are members of parliament, and many of them are lawyers.
No.
I mean, you are a lawyer. You have stated your position clearly that it shouldn't close the matter. It means that you are not exactly in favor of the decision not to take the oath anyway.
They should not do anything to halt the wheels of governance. What happened today, for me, goes against the Constitution, because you cannot be properly occupy an office when you have not sworn an oath to that effect. So I think that those who colluded to do this have done an injustice to the people of this country.
Right, and do you also believe that this is grounds for impeachment? Atachia thinks so, that by refusing to take the oath, this is grounds for impeachment, actually, just as the president could be impeached if he refused to follow constitutional provisions.
Well, I want to look at the provisions regarding impeachment, but I think that it has to do with those persons answering questions as to why they did what they did. Indeed, the fact that the Speaker of Parliament indicated that he was not going to swear the oath, or is it the Chief Justice who said he shouldn't swear the oath, in itself, it's an aberration. And they should be telling us why they did what they did.
Right, Abraham Amaliba, we're grateful for the short time you could spend on us on today's big story. Abraham is a member of the legal team, NDC's legal team. So, Yumano, tell me, were there reactions or responses from members? Because it does look like both Amaliba and Atachia share the same position that this is an infraction of the constitutional rules. What actually happened on the floor of Parliament?
Well, I can tell you, before I even move to that, from the Speaker's own statement, you heard him say, I have decided,
yes,
not to,
So it cannot be that, there are some communication team members saying that the Chief Justice...
From the horse's own mouth, he says, he didn't say the Chief Justice suggested. He said, I have decided not to take the oath. So it means it was his decision and not the members.
And not the members.
Other members were Joe Sewusu, the minority leader, the majority leader, all gave their comments. Okay. But after all that, they all agreed to support the Speaker in that.
That's expected.
Exactly. What this means is that this has put a challenge on our constitution, and we need to really probe further as to the interpretation, because now we are having so many interpretations into the decision taken by the Speaker. So a lot of things happen, and most of the members are against it. They are afraid of any sort of what Atachia is just saying about the impeachment issues, the legal issues that might emanate from this particular decision that the Speaker took.
And of course, the president might be returning by close of evening today anyway. That's a very short time of acting as president.
Exactly.
Anyway.
That's what the Speaker is standing on, saying that it's irrelevant. He's saying that this particular action is just a ceremonial decision that is being taken. So there is no need for him. Even yesterday when the announcement came, when the letter came to him and he was announcing to the House, he made it clear to the members that this is not even necessary. And then the members, especially from the minority side, surprisingly, were saying, no. Even if it's a second, you need to be the president.
That's right.
And they kept saying this. I mean, they've been saying this for a long while.
It's constitutional, really. It's constitutional. Let's listen to Joe Sewusu and Mahama Yariga, who spoke on the floor of Parliament earlier today over the matter.
We would have loved to know, the Speaker, how the conclusions that have been arrived at were so arrived at, because we would have thought that every specific occasion on which the Speaker or anybody else acts on behalf of the President, it's a lapsing with the flushing of time. So that swearing in, I would have thought, would have lapsed. Sworn in for that specific period for which you were acting. I would have thought that the appropriate thing, if the Constitution is to be respected, is for the Speaker on this occasion to swear in again.
Mr. Speaker, there is precedence. Anytime that the President leaves the Republic, the Vice President steps in and performs the function of the President. Mr. Speaker, he doesn't always have to come and be sworn in as president for that period. And so your conclusion on the matter, I think, is supported by this practice and tradition.
Well, those were the comments on the floor of Parliament by Bekwai MP and Boko Central MP. Daniel Korang is a legal commentator who has published articles on the subject, raising several key issues on the matter. He's joining us on the telephone line now, so we can do some reflection along with Atachia, who is also on the line. Daniel, good evening and thanks for joining us.
Good evening, sir.
Now, you raised very critical questions over Clause 11 of Article 60 in particular. Let me paraphrase what is said there. The Clause 11 says, where the President and the Vice President are both unable to perform the functions of the President, the Speaker of Parliament shall perform those functions until the President or the Vice President is able to perform those functions or a new President assumes office, as the case may be. Now, your article raised a key question over the clause unable to perform their functions. Now, what really is your concern about this? You feel that when the President and the Vice President travel in that capacity, performing their functions as Vice President, they shouldn't be seen to have been out of office? Can you explain?
Thank you very much. The Article 50, Clause 11 that you just read is very specific. That when they are unable to perform their functions, these are the words of the Constitution. But in 2003, 2004, the same matter went to court, the Supreme Court. In the case of Asare versus Attorney General. And the interpretation of the Supreme Court was that the clause unable to perform the functions of the President means that, or may also mean that the President is outside Ghana.
Outside the country.
And does not necessarily mean when they are incapacitated physically.
That's right.
Or when they are sick, or when they are dead.
So what is your argument that, I mean, the clause, as vague as it was, which has been now interpreted by a decision of the court, another decision of the court, should be changed? Or what is really your concern? That one, if the President is out of the country, let's take, for example, President of Ghana is in Burkina Faso now, in his capacity as chair of ECOWAS, and also in his capacity as the President of Ghana, whatever functions he's performing in Burkina Faso is a function of the President of the Republic of Ghana. So should we say that there is no vacuum?
Very well. Under the Constitution, the presidential function could be grouped into two.
Right.
We have domestic function and international function.
Right.
Where the president is in Ghana, he is a president performing domestic functions.
So where he's outside, he's performing international functions.
When he's outside, he's performing international functions.
Right, Daniel, let me hold you. I have Atachia on the line. Atachia, good evening. Sorry, I've held you for quite a while. The argument that is coming forth is a bit interesting. I'm not a lawyer, but the legal interpretation is that seems to be coming out is that if the President is in Burkina Faso, for example, performing the functions as President of the Republic, at the same time as chair of ECOWAS, that should not be seen as unable to perform his functions as President of Ghana, for that matter, for which there will be a need for an acting President. How do you, what do you say about this situation?
That's a very pathetic interpretation of Article 68. You see, because if you are careful with words, it was envisaged that you'll be outside. You'll be outside doing what? I mean, what would he be doing? Playing golf or what? Of course, they knew that he would be doing, presidential assignments outside.
Right.
But what was the concern? That when he leaves the territorial jurisdiction of Ghana, that is what they mean. When he's not physically present. That's what it means. So it's just like whenever the president is absent from Ghana, that's what it says. But when he's absent from Ghana, he's doing, presidential business, international assignments. But they want somebody to step in his stead in Ghana, physically. This is what it's envisaged. I do not know why people should place that pathetic poor interpretation on the obvious. It's all there.
So,
for example,
yeah.
Yes.
Sure, carry on, sir. You were giving us examples.
If the president is supposed to, let some officers pass out as, officers of the Ghana Armed Force, and it's not physically here, how are we going to do it?
That cannot be done, obviously.
That cannot be done. So anything he cannot physically do in Ghana is a handicap. And therefore somebody can stand instead, having subscribed to presidential oath, to do it for him. This is what we are talking about.
So what can an active president do and not do? For example, if in the period of absence of the president, there need to be a declaration of war, can the acting president do that?
Obviously so. Obviously so. And it's here. And if he has to give a state broadcast, you understand? The man is outside. So he tells the people that, look, now we have an invasion, excuse my language, and therefore we are on a military alert. You know, to begin to address the nation as if he's the president. That is why he will subscribe to the presidential oath. You see what I mean? So he's a speaker, but he won't subscribe to the oath of the speaker. He will subscribe to the presidential oath as if he's the president. It's so, obvious. I nearly use common sense, but I'm sorry. But
right.
It's so obvious. I don't see why people are so confused about the obvious.
Right, Daniel Korang, if you're there, you heard lawyer Atachia saying that this is the obvious. The fact that the president is outside the country performing the functions of a president actually does not mean that there is no vacuum, that the drafters of the Constitution saw it in the common sense approach to still have a physical president taking the position. In Ghana, your quick reaction to that, and then we'll move on.
Thank you very much. I think that Honorable Atachia is explaining the provisions of the Constitution because the Supreme Court has placed a particular interpretation on it. And I think if that case had not come up before, its interpretation might probably be different from the holding of the Supreme Court in Asare vs. Attorney General.
I see.
If you look at Article 60, Clause 8, it is very specific that when the president is absent from Ghana, but when you go to Clause 11, it says when they are unable to perform their function. This is where the Supreme Court came in to say that when the president is absent from Ghana, he is unable to perform his functions. I don't dispute that because it is a law now binding all of us.
Right.
But it is not commonsensical, as Honorable Atachia said. From common sense point of view, the provision or the interpretation put on Article 60, Clause 11 is not correct. It is not correct because when the president is absent from Ghana, he is obviously undertaking international assignment in his capacity as a president.
Right.
So I am not, proposing any new law contrary to the decision of the Supreme Court.
But you're raising critical questions
saying that it is not commonsensical as the honorable member would like all of us to believe. It is not commonsensical at all.
Right, Daniel Krang, we're grateful for your time. I'm afraid that we cannot continue along this discussion. We've exhausted the key issues that you've raised. And we're grateful that you made your point. So, Honorable Atachia, if you're there, we'll quickly be wrapping up with you. In this particular instance, the decision not to take the oath, two questions I want to bring. Did it mean that for 24 hours, Ghana didn't have a president, or does it still mean that the assumption of office as acting president was still valid and still legal?
Well, I can assure you that there's a power vacuum now. There's no president in Ghana. We are not saying that there's no president of Ghana, but we are saying there's no president in Ghana, because the drafters of the Constitution and say a president in Ghana, physically present. And when it's not there, somebody is in Ghana standing instead. So therefore, if you refuse to swear to the presidential oath, then you can't act as a president at all. So this is where we are. And what is worse? This is the constitutional infraction, pure and simple.
Right. So So what would you recommend be done? So these infractions, because it's obvious that when the decision was announced by the Speaker of Parliament, majority of MPs agreed to that position and let it go. I mean, nobody stood to question why he's not taking the oath or challenged it in any particular parliamentary procedure. What would you recommend be done subsequently so that these infractions do not occur in future?
Well, I can assure you that if anybody is confused about this simple thing, then somebody will have to go to the Supreme Court for an interpretation as to whether or not the once an oath is taken is permanent. That's a simple point of interpretation. Can we have a permanent oath? You see?
Yeah.
Because when the president returns into the jurisdiction, what becomes your oath? Why don't you act when he's here? And say, I've taken an oath permanently, so I can still act while you are here. What an absurdity.
So it means that the claim that the reason by Doa Jaho that he already took the same oath last year and there's no need to take another one is actually flawed and against constitutional provision.
Oh, it's a big absurdity, with all respect. How can you say that? If you, why doesn't he say that? Do you know I am still functioning as the president, and therefore your office has become redundant and I have to continue? But the Constitution immediately returns, then you can't act again. The Constitution speaks like that. So when it's out, you become the one acting as a president. When you subscribe to the presidential, when he returns, that power is gone.
That power is gone.
So how do you take back the power? You got to subscribe to the oath. That is why I say it's so commonsensical.
Right.
I don't see why anybody wants to place any additional interpretation on this. It's a situation of physically absent, power is revived. Physically present, power goes. Simple.
Right, Lawyer Tasha, we're grateful for your time on today's big story. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the legal expose on the issues of acting president and whether he can or not take the oath of office as acting president. My name is Stephen Enti. That's where we draw the curtains for today's big story. We'll be right back with the interactive segment. Do stay.